next command was rows of 5. Everything was always rows of 5. Or this way, or this way. And he came and he looked you over a fraction of a second and decided right or left. You have always hope. So at this head at the big rim, and when Mengele looked at me, a fraction of a second, he didn't realize how young I was. So that is how I escaped the first selection. This selection meant that all children from the age of, didn't go by age, some were 18 years old, and as well babies, toddlers. Very often a woman who had a baby on her arm had to give it to an older woman, and the mother wanted to go with the child. Don't you stay in this row. So terrible, terrible crying and screaming went on. People were separated. And the one group marched away, and then we, the people who were going into the camp, were allowed as well into the camp. Everything was quick, run. So we were herded into a big barrack, even bigger than this hall, and the next command was undressed completely naked. Can you imagine? And the Nazis, the young SS boys, were walking around laughing at our embarrassment. And but we had to, then we had to throw head and coat, everything went on the floor, everything was picked up, and all this was taken to a place called Canada, nickname, where it was sorted out, because all this what was confiscated for millions of people was taken to Germany to supply the German cities who were bombed with all kinds of things. And I've read in a book recently that the Germans could never have carried on the war so long if they would have used all those looted goods to help the bombed cities. So we heard it into, after this, then all our hair was shaved, and we had to register. They were meticulously, had to say which country, what age, what profession, everything you had to say. Of course, I didn't say I was 15, I said I was 18. And then we got tattooed on our arm. And while this was going on, and this is what I object the most, they told us with much pleasure that the family you have been separated from, were told they were going to have a shower, which was of course a great relief. So they went, of course, and I was well undressed, naked, went in there, was a room with pipes and shower heads even, and they stood there naked, waiting. And no water came. And they asked each other, is water coming from your side? No, nothing. And they started to feel faint, breathing problems, and fell to the floor. And within 15 minutes, they were all dead. And they told us that. So can you imagine how a mother who had just been separated from her child felt? So we started to cry and to scream. And then they told us, now it's your turn to go in the shower. And we didn't want to go. But eventually, of course, we were pushed into it. And it was not a shower. It was, well, not a guest shower, it was a proper shower. And then we were herded, everything quick, still naked, out of the showers. And there were two big heaps, one with clothes. And we were shown one garment. Could have been a winter coat, or a dressing gown, or a dress, summer dress, or a warm dress, whatever. And the next heap was shoes, 2 shoes, never of course a pair. Could have been a boot and a sandal. Of course never anything had a lace. And so this is what we had. We had never anything else, not even one piece of toilet paper. And I can tell you that was very, very necessary. No underwear, nothing. Then we were herded into our barracks. You might have seen pictures. It's little opening in the middle, and on both sides bunks, 3 high, wood, quite about, well, like 4 or 5 people seated, 8 people had to sleep in there. The only thing which was in was bed bugs and lice. So within a week we were bitten and we scratched and it became wounds and got infected. So within a week we looked already a pretty mess. In the morning we was a roll call, the whole camp had to be counted. We had to stand for 2 hours. Morning was probably 5, 6 o'clock. Rows of 5 this way, and then we got our breakfast, which was a little mug of liquid. In the evening we got a big chunk of bread. That was all. Didn't get any more food or anything. And in daytime you work from morning till evening late, without water, without anything. So, and where do you keep the bread? You know, some people wanted to keep something for the next day so that you don't go hungry, but you had nowhere to keep. The only thing was to sleep on a piece of bread. But it happened very often, not in the beginning, but after a few weeks people were so hungry that the person who slept next to you ate it away from under your head. It just dropped out and then disappeared. So you just had to eat it all up in the evening and have nothing for the whole day. So like this it went on day in, day out. Once a week we went to a delousing. We had a shower, our clothes was taken away, and when we came out naked, we got a new set of a dress and a pair of shoes. And one day we came out, might have been, perhaps August, don't know exactly. You know, every day was the same. We only went really by the seasons. And we came out from the shower, and there stood Mengele with some of his SS guard, and a selection was taking place. And I walked in front, naked of course, in front of him, and he turned me around, and I went to the good side. And my mother, like any mother would do, she had very often shared the little bit of food with me, and she was a very tall lady, and she didn't really look too well, I must say. Very thin and the shaved hair, you know. And so Mengele looked at her and put her to the wrong side. 40 women from ours, it was still our Dutch transport, were taken out. So naked women walked out, and they were going to go to the gas. You can't imagine how I felt. I tried to still run to her to say goodbye, but I was beaten with a stick from a capo, and so I couldn't even say goodbye to her. Well, from then on, of course, it became very, very, very difficult for me to carry on. It became winter. It was very, very wet and cold. The snow was starting to come. Sometimes you always had to run. When I ran very fast, I lost sometimes my shoes, or was barefoot in the snow. I had terrible frostbite. My toes were open, and I had to work very hard. And many, many of our Dutch people had disappeared. So I felt completely abandoned. And I was sitting working, I was called weberij, weaving. We had to make plats through material, all kinds of different material on the table, and we had to tear it apart. We didn't get scissors, of course, and make plats. We had to make 200 yards of plats, and the evening they checked it, if you made this, and as well it had to be solid, if it broke. If you missed this purpose very often, you were taken out and killed. So you really worked like mad to try to achieve this. So I really thought I can't carry on anymore. My mother was dead. I didn't know about my father and mother. I'd lost most of my Dutch friends. I was at the point of just not carrying on. And I was called as somebody outside who wants to see me. And I was sure that was an SS or something. And I went very hesitatingly, and there stood my father with an SS man. as till this day, I don't know how I was able to do that. And of course, we embraced, both cried, and then I asked how is Heinz. He said he's okay, he's okay. And then he asked, where is Mutti, Mom? And I told him she had been gassed. Well, you couldn't believe how this man looked. He looked bad anyway, but this was for him terrible. But he recovered again and he said, but hold on, the war will soon be over, we'll be together again. And so he tried to encourage me. He still came a couple of times, and then I didn't see him. And then I walked out one day, after a few weeks, and there came some people from another part of the camp, some Dutch people who had known, and because there was Birkenau, there was A, B, C, D camp, many big camps, but all in this Birkenau area. And at that time, as I say, it must have been perhaps already December, the Germans had started to evacuate the camp. They knew the Russians were coming. We had no idea what was going on. But the guards were not so anymore. Sometimes we didn't have to stand in the roll call. The gates between the different camps were open, but many people disappeared. And those were, after the war, they were called the death marches, because the Nazis started to evacuate the camp. They knew that the Russians were approaching, but we as inmates didn't know. And those Dutch people had come from a different part of the camp, and they told me they had seen my mother. And I didn't want to believe that. I thought they just wanted to cheer me up. And they said, no, that is there, this and this part of the camp, try to get there. So eventually I was able to get there. As I say, it was not so strict. Sometimes we didn't go to work at all, and many of the guards had disappeared as well. And so I was able to go there, and indeed I did find my mother. And this is a long story, a miracle story, which actually when I wrote my book, Eva's Story, my mother was still alive. And the publisher said it would be good if your mother would write chapters herself, what happened to her. So she describes exactly what happened to her. But just tell you one thing, when she was marched to the gas chamber, she told me she was praying to God that she didn't mind. She was 39 years old. She didn't mind to, it was so horrible, she didn't mind to die. But she prayed that, please let my children live. I've had my life with 39 years old. Well, she did survive, and she married Otto Frank. She was married with him for 27 years, and she lived till 97. So, really an amazing escape. So we were together again, and it became January, I think, and there was no discipline anymore. Lots of the guards had gone, there was no going to work, but there were air raids, and so the Nazis disappeared, and it was kind of chaotic. One day, one night, they called out, we're all going to march, all come outside of your barrack, and when it's empty, we are going to lock it all up and burn it all down, the whole camp. And my mother and me, we were both very weak. We went out, and then there was an air raid because the Russians were flying over the area. So we went back again, and then out again, and in and out again. And I said, my mother was so weak. I said, look, they won't go anyway, let's just stay in. And we fell asleep, and in the morning we woke up, and it was very quiet, and we went outside, and the camp was deserted. So there were only about 500 women left. The rest is all gone with the Nazis, had disappeared. We were 10 days on our own. People died still, and then one day looking around. There was a huge creature at the entrance, at the gate, with icicles and fur. It was terribly, terribly cold. And first I thought it was a bear, but when I looked closer, I realized it was a Russian soldier. And he came in and explained to people who Polish, there were some Polish people, we could speak to him, of course, that the army is near, and he was a scout to find out if they have to fight or if they just can march in. So said, I can't do anything for you, but the army will come soon. And indeed he left, and within a few days the army came with tanks, horses, and a field kitchen. And they stayed the night, and they cooked for themselves a wonderful cabbage soup, very, very greasy, and they gave us metal bowls, and we just ate and ate, you know, the first food, can you imagine? We were obsessed with food. And I've never spent a worse night on a bucket because the food went straight through me. Because, you know, body couldn't digest that. So we realized we have to be really, really careful. And then they left again, and because they were pursuing the Nazis. And I decided then we would go to Auschwitz, the men camp, to see if I could find my father and brother. And I got there, very difficult because there was fighting going on and bullet was flying over my head. And got there, and the Russian had made in Auschwitz sort of a headquarters. And I looked around in all the barracks, and there were as well perhaps 500 people around there. And I came across a man who looked sort of familiar, but he looked very thin and ashen color. And I went to him and I think I know you. And he said, yes, I'm Otto Frank, Hans' father. And he asked me, have you seen my girls or my wife? I said, no, I never saw them. Have you seen my father or Hans? And he said, yes, they were here, but they left with the Nazis. So at that time, I thought, well, that's good, they're alive still, and I'm sure they'll make it. And then the Russians decided they won't leave us there, because there was fierce fighting out in Poland, and they took us away, and they transported us eastward, because it was January, and this is Holocaust Memorial Day, 27th of January, and liberation of Auschwitz. And so we traveled with the Russians till Odessa. We got there in May. So from end of January or beginning of February, we were all the time traveling against the army who went eastward to westward to pursue the Nazis. And so in Odessa we were housed in a big estate and waiting for the end of the war. So there were many, many, many people. My mother had as well an adventure. She lost the transport. Well, I won't tell you anymore, but very, very amazing story as well. And there were as well many prisoners of war. There were Australians, Italians, all kinds of people. And there were perhaps 2,000, 3,000 people there. And eventually, when the war was finished, of course, there was big jubilation. And we were still anxious to get back to the West to find out. And Otto Frank was with us all this journey as well. And eventually a New Zealand troop transport ship came, and we were repatriated back to the West, to Marseille. And then we had again a long journey up to Holland. Eventually, in July, beginning of July, we got into Amsterdam. So we came in what a long, long journey we had. And in Amsterdam, and we were always looked, you know, we still had no money or nothing really. And everybody always looked after us. But in Holland, we were dropped at the station, and that was it. And we couldn't understand, you know, why it's not some welcoming committee, or why not they help us where to go or so. And then we heard that, you know, all the other countries were already liberated early. France, Belgium, Greece, and Holland was occupied till the end of the war, and the Germans took everything what the Dutch produced to feed their own people. So there was literally no food whatsoever in the whole of Holland. People went to the farms to come back to feed a family of 5 with 1 potato. 10,000 people were found dead in their apartments. There were no cats and dogs anymore. They all had been eaten. And then every day more people came through Germany, of course, after the war as well, who wanted to be looked after and helped and so on. So it was chaotic for many, many, many months. But we were lucky we were able to get to our apartment because it was not a Jewish home. But a Jewish home, like Otto Frank's home, for instance, when they disappeared, there was a Dutch removal firm who went in, emptied it all out and shipped it all to Germany. But this was belonging to a Christian home, so that was still left, how we had left it. So we were lucky we could go there. Otto Frank went to stay with Miep, one of the helpers. Anybody of you has read the diary of Anne Frank? I'm sure quite a few people have read it. Yeah, and then you know Miep, of course, was the main helper who found the diary. But she didn't give it to Otto yet. Only when Otto heard later that Anne and Margot and his wife had perished, did she give it to him. And he was amazingly proud. He showed it to everybody. He came to our house with a little brown parcel, opened a string, opened it. He said, I've got something amazing. Can I? And he showed it to us. I said, can I read something? I said, sure. And he read a few sentences, but always burst into tears. It took him 3 weeks to read it. And he always used to say, I didn't know my own child. He was amazed at what Anna wrote. And eventually he published it. But you know, after the war, everybody had suffered and everybody wanted to move on. People didn't really want to know. It was not a great success. But when it was published in America, with difficulty, because no publisher really wanted it, but eventually Doubleday said, okay, we'll publish it. It became a bestseller. And it has been sold many, many millions copies in, I think, in 70 languages.